The experience that I help people through is that soul retrieval and retrieving those parts of themselves, bringing them all back because you're not broken. There are just parts of you that are fragmented in time. And you need to just bring them all back into this one whole container. And then once you do that, it's this like process of checking in with those parts and seeing, because you've gone through your life and learned all of these things, but those parts were frozen in time. So when you retrieve them, you then have to teach them and help them integrate everything that you've learned. And so a situation that causes overwhelm or upset in your life arises, and then that part of you is just like in the background, like, what is happening? I'm freaking out. And you have to connect with them, and time doesn't exist. And so we're like going back in time and altering the energy of these experiences that our past selves have gone through. And then it just somehow integrates into the present.
There is no one way to priestess. In this modern world, the professional priestess isn't just reclaiming her power. She's owning her right to be seen, supported, and supremely resourced. Money, visibility, the team, devotion, she gets to have it all because her work is the work. And the world is catching up, learning that her presence is priceless. Because when she thrives, the medicine multiplies. I'm your host, Lindsay Schroeder, and I'll be connecting you with sacred alchemists at the forefront of the feminine revolution. The modern priestess is building her empire through her essence. This is the space for those ready to return to the temple, the one that lives deep within. I want to start this conversation by talking about something that I've heard you speak to so many times, but that I've really seen your energy like light up and take up space when even the word is mentioned. And like we talk a lot about breath work because that's such a foundational piece for you, but the piece that really stands out for me is breakthrough. And so I've seen and I've felt and I've experienced in so many ways. And I just know that like those who are listening are really going to want to hear what you have to say as it pertains to like, what is a breakthrough and why is that such a core piece of your work? And what does that mean? And what does that do for other people? Tell me all about it, please.
Absolutely. Breakthrough, whether you want to call it like breaking through the glass ceiling above you or breaking through beneath the surface, like and I think it's actually a combination of both, right? I think you actually have to dive down deep because you've got the iceberg, right? And you can only see this little portion of it, and you have to break through beneath the surface to get to those deeper layers. And this is where all of the shadows and the parts of ourselves that are frozen in time, in grief and pain and trauma and all the betrayal and the things that we experience in life, we have to break through that surface level of our life and get into the nitty gritty of things and go rescue soul retrieval, rescue these parts of ourselves. And then when we reclaim that and we reclaim that power and we integrate that shadow side, then we get to rise up and we get to break through the ceiling that is above us and going to the next level. And I mean, I feel like maybe there's infinite amounts of levels because every time I'm like, I've made it, girl, sit down because you absolutely just made it to the next level of the spiral path. Like it's just continuous. It's the path to enlightenment. And there's not ever oh, I've made it. There's no destination. It's the journey. Like you just keep going, but you do hit these new levels and layers. And when you do hit the new level, you get to like integrate and you get to like kiki for a little while. And then the next layer comes and you're like, oh, strap on, buddy. We're going for a ride again. So,
Tom, do you know that my membership is called the Spiral Path?
no, I didn't know that, but I reference the spiral path all the time. All the time. I love that.
So, like, I'm always talking about, like, we ascend into divinity. And, like, you know what that's of. Like, you know, you get the breathwork going and you're like, guys, like, I am up here. And the ascension, the expansion, the experience
Mhm.
is only a part of it. And so we're like up and forward, but then the spiral path is the back and down and in, and the up and out and forward, and the back and down and in, and this like constant, ideally almost like this flow state body movement of like what I experience in like belly dancing and with
Mm.
Shakti and with Kundalini, where you are up and out, but back and down and I love how much embodiment and how much integration you speak to, and I think that's one of the things that, like, really resonates between our work, that we understand how profound the container, the experience, the, like, what we build, but how you prepare someone for it and how you support them out of it, and how each individual person does the, "Okay, let me, like, digest, let me integrate, and
Mhm.
then how do I embody? How do I live that in a way where it's not just a piece of knowledge that I logically understand, but how do I get to this point where it is an autopilot reaction almost? Where like, yeah, I'm choosing response, but even the few seconds before I choose that response, my autopilot, I've consciously shifted it to move in that way, to move in that direction, to help
Yep.
give me that little bit of extra time as my consciousness clicks in.
Yep.
And so I would love for you to ground kind of the like beautiful overview that we're talking about into your services. And I know you just had a retreat. So into like what the experience is and where the breakthroughs are coming from. Is it just if you do step one, step two, and step three of breathing in and breathing out, you're pushing through this like imaginary ceiling? Or now start to ground us in to the tangible, help us to digest the breakthrough as it is specific to your work and your offering and what you're building.
It's I mean, I think there are so many ways to break through in the tangible. And I think it depends on what part of the spiral path you're at as well. And, like the conversation that you and I had last week about I use all of these different tools and things, but at the end of the day, like I am the modality and like my priestess shows me what to use and when. Like I literally just finished a call with a client right before we hopped on here and she was like, "Every time we get on a call, it changes my fucking life." And I'm like and for her, the breakthrough was simply like, she's in my 2nd level container, which I'll find a beautiful name for one day. Um, she's in this container that is a longer, more advanced than the first one that I offered, and she's kind of, like, financially trying to figure things out, which like we don't need to figure things out. We just need to trust and take the action and embody, right? So I'm helping her learn that and embody that.
Yeah.
Um, but she's had an incredibly chaotic week and last few weeks really and needs this support. And for her today, the breakthrough was me simply guiding her through holding the container as she checked in with parts of herself and just slowed down, and I held the
Oh,
space while she had these versions of herself come forward that were like just needed to tell her how proud of her they were because she has
mm,
been showing up and doing the work, and they're like in awe of her. They're like, "This is," and she's like, she told me, like, "I've been numb all week. I've been in this shutdown because it's just been so much overwhelm." And then we grounded in and we're talking for a while and she's like spilling all this stuff. And then I was like, all right, well, let's do this exercise. I had no idea what we were going to do when that call started. Like, that was just like it intuitively came to me. I was like, sit her down for check in. These other parts of self needs, they have something to say. And
yeah.
I mean, just the tears just started rolling. And so we did like this 20-minute, like guided experience where it was just like us in the container together and I'm like guiding the energy as her parts are like just telling her. And so that was, the tangible breakthrough for her was simply just a check-in, like
Yeah.
speaking to self. But so many people don't know how to actually do that. And like we spoke of earlier, there's all these fragmented parts of self that get lost in time. So through this journey, the containers that I hold and the experience that I help people through is that soul retrieval and retrieving those parts of themselves, bringing them all back because you're not broken. There are just parts of you that are fragmented in time. And you need to just bring them all back into this one whole container. And then once you do that, it's this like process of checking in with those parts and seeing because like you've gone through your life and learned all of these things, but those parts were frozen in time. So when you retrieve them, you then have to teach them and help them integrate everything that you've learned. And so, a situation that causes overwhelm or upset in your life arises, and then that part of you is just like in the background, like, oh my God, what is happening? I'm freaking out. And you have to connect with them. And time doesn't exist. And so we're like going back in time and altering the energy of these experiences that our past selves have gone through. And then it just somehow integrates into the present. So much woo woo, but it's also at the same time so very tangible. And there's actually research that proves that you can alter the energy of your vessel, your subconscious by doing these meditations and connecting with those past versions.
Yeah. A lot of what I talk about in relation to that, like revisioning, is around the past only being real in the mind. That, like, after it's beyond the present moment, after you've like moved through it, it truly is only real in the mind. And so, like, for you and your lived experience, if it's negatively affecting you, if it's holding you back, if it's weighing you down, if like it is causing distress, then like revisioning, reworking it, like you're saying, changing the vibrational like hold that it has,
Mhm.
almost like what record is playing when this experience comes up for you,
Yeah.
and like how much that can actually shift things. And now I know you're mentioning like the research and stuff, and how quantum studies are showing us that like when you change something in the present, it actually changes in the past.
Yep.
And like, yes, our little human minds are like, I mean, I hear that. I
They're
don't
like,
understand.
"What are you talking about?"
Yes. And yet in this work, we see it all the time where I'm like, I don't change the abuse that happened to me in the past, but I can change the way that my body, my hormones, my system, my nervous system, I could keep
Mhm.
going, all of these different pieces of me react and respond in the present moment based off of revisioning, based off of going back into that experience and me as my current self scooping that little me up, getting little me out of that unsafe place, placing safety, offering so like, and all of these pieces. And I think for a very long time, this type of work was like, oh, it's visualization. Oh, it's very similar to that. Like, oh, you're just visualizing yourself shooting the basketball. And yes, the muscle memory and like what that creates. But when we start to really, and science is matching up with us, understand that like there's so much more than just, yes, when I visualize it in my head, my body will know how to do it more efficiently. There's so much more. And the unseen vibration, the unseen frequency, the unseen shift in what I believe to be like who we are, how we define ourselves, our belief structures, what is always, what is never, what is true, what is this little T truth, capital T truth. And like, we know how to work in those spaces with people. And yet there is not like a master manual that each one of us gets and is like, oh, when they say this, then you do this. And when they do this, then you go to here. And it's been such a profound experience to get to do this type of like conversating with other individuals working in this space, because even though the majority of us have not been ordained, trained under the same lineage, we come to these same points. And yeah, our words might be a little bit different, our process might be a little bit different, but like there are these like uniform pillars that all of us like get to, and we're like, yeah, like that,
Mhm.
that, that.
Yep. You were like, "Oh, there's
So
not a master manual." I was like, "There is. It's just inside us. It's intuitive and it's nuanced for each practitioner, each healer, priestess, each person."
yeah.
But yeah, and that's what I was gonna say earlier is it's really cool because I just started intuitively doing this work with myself. Nobody taught me how to do this. I just started doing it before I even learned about and understood mentally
Yeah.
what the hell the quantum was.
Yes.
Like, no, I, like, never even I was like, "Oh, I don't know." Like, I'm not a science person, I can't understand that, and then I started living it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I've been doing that. Then I've been doing that. Wait, and I can hold that container for other people, and that's really beautiful," and then teach them how to do it because you guide someone through it enough times that they eventually start to do it themselves and learn how to, and it's just helping them bridge the gap and getting them to the point where then they can. But even
Yeah.
then, like for you and I, we still have to sit with other people in containers and have them help us do the work. Like we're all just walking each other home. Like we need each other. It's not something you can just explicitly do all by yourself. Like it's really
Yes.
nice to
Oh
have
my God.
someone hold that container.
That is one of the things that, like, now I say so specifically where I'm just like, trauma work, healing work, so many of these pieces and facets of work, like, it cannot be done completely contained within one's own mind.
Nope.
There's so much that you can do that, like, sets up the domino, so to speak, but the, like, flicking down of the dominoes, I deeply believe from lived experience personally, from professional lived experience, from working with so many people in these places and pieces and fragments and containers where I'm like, if all you've ever done is, like, rethink, replay, even rewire or revision your own trauma, your own thing inside your own self, and there's not ever been the like, oh, with a therapist or with a practitioner or even just with like a friend or a trusted family, if it's
Mhm.
never come out and it's never been explored in that like non-internal dimension, I think there is such a piece of like
There's
the
a blind
flow, the
spot.
vision, yes, the like breakthrough that you're missing when you don't allow that type of support. Now, I'm not saying that there's no healing possible or available on an individual level. Lord knows the two of us have done
Right, right. Absolutely.
so so much individual healing. And yet, right now, a lot of what I'm talking about is this like aloneness versus loneliness. And like at this awakening from the awakening, which is what I like to call it, where you're like, okay, you've had your awakening, and now you're like, what the fuck is happening again? Like, and you are called to awaken from the awakening.
Mhm.
There is this like, oh, I have to face the fact that I have to be more alone. There's more aloneness here than a lot of other people experience because when you are the modality, when there's no one who's ever done it like you, when there's nobody who can tell you that's the right answer, that's the wrong answer, they're like, yeah, I can tell you what system, I can tell you who the payment processor, I can tell you what, funnels work really well or what the like lowest cost per acquisition is. But like, I can't tell you which one of these skills is gonna need to come for and what and how you and what how
Right.
do you scan another like it's so unique per high level practitioner. And like the closer you have a connection, I find to God, goddess, great one, whatever you believe in, or the quantum, or the like mixture of both, or the like hierarchy of, the more aloneness you do require to be able to get that flow and that clarity
Mhm.
for self.
Mhm.
And yet we are still like sometimes oftentimes so lonely, and it's like it is this like beautiful little balancing scale with the feather on it of like I do deeply need desire to have someone see me, hold me, support me at this level, not just a fractal, not just a fragment. And I
Mhm.
think high level practitioners, we get to this point where we're like, okay, I've been scotch taping and gluing this shit together, where I'm like, okay, this like massage therapist and I got an Akashic Records reading over and I did this. And you're like trying to put these things together. And then you get to this point of like, no, I need someone who can hold a container for me. I need
Mhm.
to be able to like unbecome and be seen sometimes in those little flickers of like, I know that is me and I know I have that and I know that's like true and called and meant for. And yet having someone else use their gift to see it to witness it, to
Mhm.
affirm it, it does something.
Mhm. Absolutely. It is, it's so important, and that aloneness, like you said, is so needed because the guidebook is inside of us, and when we're around all these people and other energies and noise, we can't read anything. We're like, I don't know, like, you can't. So, the yeah, there's this women's circle I go to every Monday night, and I'm like, "Oh, I just finished this retreat. I don't know if I'm gonna go tonight because I think I actually just need to sit in quiet and with myself and that aloneness." But anyways, yeah, having someone to hold that container, and I'm very curious to see how it all plays out with the people that I will continue to work with because I had a mentor last year that held a beautiful container for me, but then it swapped at some point and I ended up holding container for her. And it's like when the student becomes the teacher. And it's like we are all we are all simultaneously both the teacher and the student,
Yes.
always. And it's interesting when I see facilitators and healers that are living more in their ego that are like, "Oh, no, I've learned it all, like, I am the teacher," and I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, what? You're holding yourself back from like, you're staying in one spot on the spiral path saying, "Oh, I've reached the top. Alright, you have fun, Imma keep walking."
That's one of the scariest things I think I can hear from a teacher, holder of space, leader when asked, like, who do you go to? Who do you look up to? Who do you receive from? Who holds you? Who
Mhm.
teaches you? Who expands you? And they're like, no one. And you're like,
And,
wait,
like, what do
what?
you mean I have, like, 5 mentors or people or teachers at any given time?
Yeah. And the awareness is so important that, like, when you are studying with, when you are following, when you are supported by, when you are consuming, like, I have told so many of my clients, I'm like, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with is so true and honest. And sometimes there are these situations where one of the people is someone who you don't know. With the internet, the way in which we can consume someone's content and be in their vibration and be supported and see and read their book and take their course, and like, you can choose to surround yourself with a different setting even if like your third dimensional reality can't shift in that way
Right.
yet. Like, what you consume is in all ways. What are you taking in? What are you listening to? What are you speaking to? What are you seeing? What are you engaged with? And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed with that, and I know quite a few spiritual practitioners where we get to this point where we're just like, "Okay, so, like, I can't be a real person anymore." Like, I, like, can't be a real person anymore. Like, what does that mean? I, like, can't eat regular food, and I can't watch regular TV, and I can't go to the grocery store, and I can't go see a movie, and I can't go to a festival, and I can't do any of these things because I have to be so hyper intentional, and then I, like, share, especially now, with people, like, some of the, like, choices that and how I make those choices where I'm like, well, for instance, like, when I watch trash TV or, like, even the commercials, I'm just like, "I do not consent to that." And then I mute it, and I'm like, "I do not consent," and they're like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, I did have to come from that place of, like, okay, I'm not a fucking Sherpa up in the mountains. I'm not a monk in a monastery. I'm like,
Yep.
yes,
We're here. We are here. It's
a human life."
Yep.
And it's a moment, it's a experience, it is one of the rites of passage when you shift from, "I need this thing," like, "I need this healing, I need these breakthrough, I need to fix myself, I need to heal myself, I need to," at least for me, all of the things that had happened in my childhood, and I was like, "Okay, like, this is bad, like, we need to, like,
Right.
do some like, we can't stay carrying this
Right.
like this in these poorly packed, spilling out bag containers and just like everywhere." And I was so selfish with my like gift and my practice and my healing and my offering and like what I found. And then the moment something clicked and I was like, oh, it works. Then I just couldn't shut the fuck up about it. And I was like giving it to everybody and like writing down prescriptions and sharing books and sharing practices and all of this. And like there is that moment where you're like, wow, I really need to figure out how to integrate these 2 pieces that, like, my human And for me, I describe that like my witch is like my human magical worker and my priestess is my cosmic magical worker.
Mm,
And so like those pieces are even separate. Like what my witch does and what my priestess does are different, and sometimes have different perspectives and different
right.
opinions. And then my like human, my just like regular human it's like, what is going on? And like all of those pieces and parts, it's not even just ages anymore. It's like true facets, expressions of the self.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of what you mentioned and a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what I see from those sessions and experiences like you described of like collecting all of them and bringing them back in.
Mhm.
I'm curious, do you find that all of those pieces and parts can actually fit within the human temple?
I don't I don't think so.
As, like, I e-break into a different, like, topic. I'm just like,
I was
right?
planning my response of what I was gonna say of what we were just talking about, and you're like, "Let's cool." I'm like, "All right, my neurospicy brain can vibe with that. Let's go."
Curious.
Um,
Right?
no, truthfully, I don't think they can all fit within the container of the human because we're not. We're not. We
Because
we are
we're
we have
not.
these human bodies, but we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and so no, like we are multifaceted. I am one of the most multifaceted humans that I know, beings that I know. Like I can just I am this and this and this and that and that. And I'm like, oh, this is so incredible, but also sometimes so overwhelming because I'm like, I want to do so many things in this life. And I'm like, there's not enough time. And I'm like, there is so much time. Just relax and breathe and flow into what you want when you want to, and then use the structure to help guide you through the time management of those things. My little manifesting generator ass is like, "I'm gonna do it all. We're gonna do it all." And I'm like,
And, like, my projector's like, "I'm overwhelmed just, like, thinking about all of the bobbing and weaving between those 2
I
2
love it though. I
properties."
thrive off it.
Yeah.
I'm like it gets me going. I'm like, "Yeah." I think I checked out my human design the other day because I was just curious because I hadn't looked in a while and I don't know too much about it. But like my big energy point, whatever, is like my sacral, and I'm like, oh, so that's why I literally just get like horny about life sometimes. Like I'm so excited about the work, and it's like driving, and I'm like, gosh, I'm really turned on right now about this
Yeah.
project.
I'm like, "This is aligned." I know it, for sure. Are you a sacral authority?
I think so. I don't know.
We'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah.
I so one of the things that you just said in there speaks to the balance of masculine and feminine. And as we're discussing multifaceted natures, like being queer practitioners of the energy body and having such a different relationship with binary, with masculine, with feminine, with like, I feel like so many of my queer collaborators, we've grown up with a deep connection to, even if it was like stifled and shut down, but like this deep connection to having these multiple pieces and parts and also not fitting into the binary and the stereotypes out here.
Hmm.
As someone who is so different in our like design types and our energy fields, and yet we have so much similarity in other places. I would love to hear about your personal experience with like, what the fuck am I going for equal? Am I going for balance? Am I going for equanimity? Am I going for like what is the one right now? Like what is your relationship with the masculine and the feminine? Is that different from divine masculine and divine feminine contained in the body as a practitioner? Like take your pick,
What was the question again? No, I'm kidding.
right?
Oh, okay. So for me, um, it's okay. Real quick. So when the soul retrieval was happening very deeply for me, I realized that there are actually very young parts of me that are like a little boy, right? And I never quite felt like a girl. A lot, especially as a young child growing up, wore boy clothes. My best friend was a boy, and like I like pictured myself as a boy because I liked girls and I had crushes on girls, but for me, like, I grew up very Catholic and sheltered, and so I actually didn't even know being gay was a thing for I mean, until I was, like, 11, didn't register, and so, like, I've got these very, like, non-binary parts of myself, and now that I've anchored deeper into my queer identity as a non-binary human, I for me, I flow in and out as needed. Now, recently I've had this experience, like very recently, as I'm developing my brand and developing my company and myself and my coaching and the containers I hold. I've been doing a lot of meditations, connecting with my higher self, getting downloads and creative ideas of our literally words, literally designing my logo. I was led through this meditation. I hired a good friend helping me develop my brand, and like my higher self was like my friend guiding me through the meditation was like, okay, what does she want? What is and I couldn't even like focus. I was like, hey, look, my higher self wants you to know they are very they them. Like
Yeah.
very non-binary. And it was really funny too, because then she was like, okay, what does they them want? And I was like, you can just say what did they? And then she was like, what does they want? And I was like, would you say that in a real sentence? It was really funny, and I love this person to death, and, like, she doesn't understand the depth of non-binary, and that's okay, a lot of people don't, right? But it's like, if you have binary folks in your life, like, just do a little bit of research to really understand them, because for me, uh, well, for me, being non-binary, I don't wanna ever be, like, perceived as a man or he, him, like, don't hit me with a he, him pronoun, absolutely not. But I do love she, her at times because I have spent a lot of this year deeply connecting with my divine feminine and that priestess, empress, goddess energy because it's so empowering and magnetic for me. Like the masculine, had down packed for a long time. I've lived in my masculine and I lived in a very wounded masculine space, which was like filled with ego and righteousness and pride and all those things. But I started to heal that, and then it was just like this discipline and action and structure, and I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful." But when I finally anchored into that rest and flow and creation and art and ease, that's when the balance formed for me, and that is actually when I really anchored down into my queer identity as non-binary because I was like, "Oh, I am literally just all of it." And I can flow in and out of it as I need, and I'm not just one and, like, it's so interesting because folks that do fall into the binary, but then are also very spiritual and are like, "Well, we all have both energies." I'm just kind of, like, so curious. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, "How does that even work?" Because 'Cause I'm just like, I'm neither. I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy. I'm not a woman, I'm not a man. I'm Dom, you know? I am the priestess. I don't know how to quite say that yet. We're developing, we're tweaking it, but
Yeah. I'm loving getting to see the, like, the work in progress, the very, like, I am fully clear on myself, and yet I am still fully, like, developing the language and the perspective and how to share and how those 2 things are so different. Of, like, I can be in this depthful experience of, like, me-ness, this is who I am-ness, and also have no idea how to, like, share it or get it out or even how to represent it, like, those moments where you know the dream that you had, like, you know what it feel and you're like, "I have no idea how to say it, I'm not sure where it was or what I was doing, but I, like, feel" but the moment that I'm trying to put words to it
yeah,
is like sand through my fingers.
yeah, yeah. But I wanna
Yeah.
be that representation for queer folks who don't fall into either category, and especially queer wellness. spiritual folks who just like because with divine masculine and divine feminine and the binary of things, it can be so confusing for us queer folks who just don't fall into that. And I love giving that representation. But then I also like, I'm very sapphic. I love women and being a non-binary lesbian. So then I'm like, well, there's this whole other avenue, and like a majority of my clients are women or non-binary. I'm feminine folks, like, but most of them are queer women and identify as so. So that's really interesting. But I want to had a nice little like idea download for starting like a sapphic breathwork container where it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
What have you found is unique to the queer wellness, queer spiritual, queer woo woo experience that is unique? That is, do you find that there are these certain pieces that the majority of the queer community goes through when they have both of those pillars of like, I identify as queer underneath this umbrella, and I am self identifying as like pursuing spirituality, pursuing personal development, woo woo, however you want to define those two things, but they're like, yeah, I got a foot in each of these.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that are consistently coming up? Because wellness in general, this like bajillion-dollar industry, we don't see a lot of representation in many facets of the self. And that's been something that's been important to me with this offering of like bringing more queer practitioners, bringing more Black and Brown practitioners, bringing more practitioners who have studied with a specific lineage or the indigenous or like these different facets of who we are and bringing them back into these synthesis spaces for others. So I'd love to have some time that's really focused on the queer spiritual journey, the queer breathwork journey, the queer breakthrough experience from your lens.
So I think one of the things that I've noticed largely working with the queer community is disconnect from the body itself. And I know that's really common for a lot of people, but then I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well that's really common for my experience working with clients, and majority of those folks have been queer. So like I actually can't say if that's super common for the totality of like humanity, even though I'm sure it
Yeah.
probably is, but queer across the board, but especially like trans folk and non-binary folks, disconnection from the body is such a deep rooted thing, and even deeper like the hatred of the body and the vessel, and helping my clients fall in love with themselves and drop into the body and begin taking actions to respect and love their body is a really beautiful thing. Me personally, like I I want top surgery one day, but I also want children, and I want to bear and birth children and breastfeed them because I think that's incredibly important. So I'm like, all right, I hope my future children know how much I love them because I'm tough dealing with this thing, these things for however many more years until that happens. But I grew up really like hating that part of my body. And when I started healing, I started just giving all of this love to my body because I was suddenly dropped into it after like 7 years of living just here in like that third player mode where I'm just like watching my character walk around. Um, and so I started healing and I started just giving love to my body. I'm like, okay, even if I don't like love the way that it looks or feels, it's mine. It's my
Yeah.
body, and it carries me through this existence. It carries my soul, and that soul is beautiful regardless of the physical form it takes. That's fucking awesome. And so I started embracing that and really falling in love with my body, even if there were things that I wanted to change. But then through that process, only when I started loving my body is when I was able to make those changes, right? So when people, um, struggle with fitness and nutrition and getting into the gym and things like that, like, I hate my body. It doesn't do this right. Talking down on it, believing these negative things. When I shifted that inwards or shifted that internally first, that's the moment the external started to shift. But it had to happen first because when I started loving myself deeply and the self acceptance of my body is when I was like, I don't want to put that in my body because I know it's not good for me and it's not, you know, serving me. I'm gonna show up to the gym even if I don't want to because I know consistency is the way to, you know, hit my goals. And so that was a big thing for me. But I see a lot of disconnection in in the queer community around their bodies. And breath work has led to some of the most massive breakthroughs in that area for me to radical self-love. Like, there are a lot of things that you can do to shift and change your body in the gender affirming care and all of the things, and you can absolutely do that, but there is an aspect of, like, having to love your body as well, and a lot of, trans creators and stuff that I follow are, like, had the years of hating their body, but then when they started to heal and make the shifts and get the gender affirming care, they're like, "No, I love my body because it's mine, and whatever, it's carried me through, there's this shift that happens, and it's really important. So I guess that's one of the biggest things. That's the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to like a common thing that I'm seeing within the queer community working with them. But also just noticing that like everybody has these core mother wounds and father wounds. Those are just the core, and that's across the board for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
but with with the queer community, it like really shapes us.
Yeah. Let's talk more about that because the foundation, like the majority of us who work in this area, this industry can agree that the people who raised you, the people who were intended to give you love or support or take care of your needs, so to speak. And I use that language intentionally because it's not always a mother and father. Sometimes it's a grandparent, sometimes it's an aunt, sometimes it's a collective of several people. But the people who are responsible for you, they program you and they imprint, and those things are carried through unless you shift them, which means you need to know how to get in there and actually rewire and rework and shift. And I think that's something that the majority of people who pursue this type of work, they know it.
Mhm,
You know it, you've heard it, you've
mhm.
thought it, but that understanding that those pillars are affecting my everyday choices, what I'm seeing, what I don't see, what I don't pick up on, what I respond to, what I react to, all of those things. So when you start working with someone, talk to us a little bit about, are you scanning? Are you doing an intake? How do you figure out where do we start and what do we do? Or is it always just we start with this breathwork session and we see what comes out here?
Mhm.
Is there a priority tag? Are we triaging? How does this work in your world?
Okay. So with my container, most people, I haven't actually had somebody come in who's like, "Yep, I've done all of this groundwork, base work. I'm ready to start off at this higher level." I haven't had anybody yet come into that space. Everybody starts off in the first 8-week container, which is kind of like I've nicknamed it the unfuck yourself. It's like people come in and they're just like, "Dog, I gotta do something and I need to do it like yesterday." And for me, in my program, week 4 and week 5 are the mother wound and father wound weeks. And I say that loosely, because, like you said, caregivers, sometimes you have one parental figure that actually embodies both energies. But when I say mother wound, I'm talking about the person that taught you how to nurture, that taught you safety, that softness. And then father wound is the person that taught you protector roles and how to form friendships and how to it's those things. What I really love, what really helped me understand the roles that the mother and the father, masculine and feminine, play in our just coming up as humans. Um, in the book, The Maps to Ecstasy by Gabrielle Roth. I think everybody should read that book. Edible, incredible piece of work there. But that really helped me understand the way that it shapes you as a human, what these parental figures do and don't do in your life. So for me, I actually just a couple hours ago had a client send a message in our group chat, be like, week 4 mother meditation hit home for me, like, this is something that she's been working through, like, lots of, stuff there to work through, and, yeah, it's a lot that goes into that, but for me, I can always tell, like, in a consult with a client, like, alright, they've got this, and this that probably happened to them. They don't even have to tell me, they can just tell me what they're struggling with, and I'm like, "Okay, the root of that is this." You know, I just see it,
Yeah.
know it, I feel it, I hear it, whatever the clairvoyant gifts and all of that stuff comes through. But there's a specific program that people run through for that first container, and then the second container is, like, a little more, like, flowy and nuanced, and, with the breath work, you're doing 8 weeks of breakthrough journeys. So once a week, you are, like, peeling back the layers of the onion, just, like, layer after layer of purging and releasing and then deepening and the downloads. It's like you clear some things out and you make some space, and then spirit can come through, your higher self can come through, God, whatever you identify with can come through and fill that space with the higher downloads, the higher frequency, the higher knowledge. So my clients are doing that for 8 weeks while simultaneously learning how to repair and regulate the nervous system through the breath retraining process, because as we go through life, we are born perfect, and then things start to fragment, and through that fragmentation our breathing gets thrown off of its baseline. And especially, like, don't even get me started on the whole, like, the pacifiers and the bottle feeding and the soft foods that just absolutely mess up our palate and our breathing. It was just the teeth and the sunken in face, like,
Yeah.
everything. There's so much, so if you wanna know more about that, let me know. But they're going through this 5 to 6 week program inside of the container that is focused specifically on retraining the body to breathe properly, because we are breathing too fast, too shallow, through the mouth, using secondary breathing muscles, which are causing back pain, neck pain, headaches, chest pain. So our average nationally is anywhere from 14 to 22 breaths per minute. Ideally, we want to breathe anywhere from 8 to 12. So even our lowest is higher than where it's supposed to be. When you're breathing faster, shallow breaths, you are activating the sympathetic nervous system. You're activating the body's fight or flight. So people are literally walking around in this heightened state. When you're in sympathetic, the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex is lower, so your logical, rational thinking brain is not on. You are walking around in this instinct. You are just reacting to things. You're not responding to life. You're walking around in autopilot, and that is 90% of the population. So as we're going through this deep journey of healing trauma and peeling back the layers and deepening the self-love, we're also repairing the damage that's been done to the nervous system, because the breakthrough breath work is the sacred and then the breath retraining is the mundane. And my mentor said something to me that will I will never forget, and it's the reason I named my first company Balanced Breath Work, because if you ignore the mundane, no, if you ignore the sacred, the mundane will wear you down. But if you ignore the mundane, the sacred will burn you. You cannot do just one. You have to have a
Yeah.
combination of both. And for me, it's like an 80-20, because you've got your everyday breathwork techniques to ground in, regulate the nervous system. And then, like, once a month, I'll do a breakthrough breathwork journey. That is my non negotiable maintenance. I have to do that. I had an extremely powerful one last week, and I realized it was, like, on my 3-year anniversary of the very first thing.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Um, so there's that, the breakthrough breath work, the breath retraining, and then there's some one-on-one stuff that we do. There's group calls where there's Q&As. There is, an entire, like, module course of just information, knowledge that I share, worksheets, little exercises that they can do to dig deeper and understand themselves, better. But really, like, what I offer in this container is, like, I can guarantee you transformation if you show up and do the work. If you watch the modules and you show up to the breakthrough calls, you do 80% of the work. The person you are when you come into this container is not the person you will be when you finish. Like, I can promise my clients that. I can promise the transformation because I've seen it enough times. Everybody commits to the work and they see the results. So a lot of coaches, I
Yeah.
feel like, can't guarantee any type of transformation. I can,
Mhm.
and I know that I can because I am the modality.
I love that. I wanna hear we've personally, outside of recording, have talked a bit about that, and it's one of the things that I see in so many practitioners where I'm like, "Yes, the certifications, the letters, these pieces, yes, but the true alchemy is this like synthesis of like how I'm using and how am I, and even if we're doing the same things, even if we're both utilizing breath work in a session, even if we're both utilizing guided meditation, guided visualization, even if we're using revisioning, even if every single topic program methodology framework is like checked off, these experiences will be so different and unique, and they might come back together and achieve the same thing. So I would love to spend this like last little bit of time really like exploring what that means inside you to be in process. I don't know, for like in the little birth canal, but like of becoming, birthing yourself as the modality, as like I'm no longer just like utilizing a skill set, like puzzle piece, putting it in there, but like I am the living, breathing embodiment of this work.
Mhm. So it's funny, I'm actually going to bring it back to the maps to ecstasy because all she talks about is the five rhythms. So there's the five rhythms of dance and the life experience from adolescence, childhood, adulthood, whatever. But the last five rhythms that she talks about is moving from, so you've got the stillness where you're not moving at all. And then you've got the inertia phase where you have to, like, start moving and you have to start doing something, and breaking free from inertia is moving into imitation. So when I started my journey, I started imitating other practitioners and mentors and learning the tools and the programs and modalities, everything, right? And then somewhere along the way, I shifted from imitation into intuition. I started adding my own twist on things and just trusting and being like, hey, I don't really like the way that this feels for me. Shifted over here to this. And then ultimately, I feel like what I'm moving into now, or kind of moved into when I launched my coaching, was the fifth rhythm, which is imagination. Taking all of what you've learned, your intuition, and forming it into your own thing of the imagination. So for me, yeah, I started my spiritual journey, the original awakening, 8 years ago. So everything that I have learned and practiced in those 8 years, I formulated into this container. And that's my frequency because I embody every single one of those practices and tools and modalities. It's in me. I speak it and people feel it. It's the frequency and the vibration that my 3D body and vessel contains, but also channeled through the divine. So it's like my priestess and my human combining and putting out, transmitting this frequency as the modality to other people. to the container.
Yeah. Yeah. And like truly like when we emanate, when we are that magnetic field that is polarized in that way, that is imprinted in that way, just how we choose what we're saying, how we move energy, how we recount things, how we express things, the language that we use, the visuals that we use. They're so specific to the individual. And it's like, I like to call it bioavailable, where it's like, no, I am consciously, intentionally offering this metaphor in a bioavailable way. Like I'm scanning or connecting with your guides, your guide, so that the thing that I'm offering is received in a way that's not just like, that's how I want to say it to you, or that's what I mean, but I want it to land in that
Yes.
intentional way. And I think that is a facet of the priestess path that is not often talked about. This like, we are putting words to the wordless. And this has been a thing that I've talked about in so many of these episodes, but it's so much more than just the words. We are truly articulating vibration and frequency and creating this like song and dance and artistic expression of what that like is in the field so that they can embody it further and experience it. I often call it like showing them how to jump on the trampoline to like get up to that height, and then show like, okay, how do you tread water up there and how do you get back up there? And then how do you just like shift and be that? And now that's just the bottom of it. And now we're jumping again. And
The
like,
breakthrough.
yes, the breakthrough. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that is something where it's like every single thing I've experienced in this life has happened for me and not to me, because if I think back to my childhood, and I mean, for 18, 19 years of my life until I moved out of my mom's house, like I was raised Catholic in the Catholic faith. And I actually have one of my more recent clients who signed is a practicing Catholic, but very woo-woo, very spiritual, like totally gets it tapped in, but also resonates deeply with Jesus Christ and Mary and that space. So I have all of that lingo. I don't
Yeah.
resonate deeply with that, but I can communicate to her in a way that
Yes.
lands for her and still transmitting that frequency. And so it's all across the board. Like I've got people pagan and Wiccan and just different religions, and I've spent a bit of time in almost all of them. And, like, even one of my clients, has been raised Mormon her entire life, and my neighbors growing up were Mormon, so I know a decent bit about that as well, and I'm like, "Oh, wow." Like, so I can understand a lot of what's being said and then communicate in a way that lands for my clients. And it's really, and I think that also is from having lived so many lifetimes as well. I can experience something that other people will have to spend years and decades learning, and I can go through a deep experience in that container 1 or 2 times and have all of it just because it's already encoded in my DNA and my blueprint, and I go through the experience and it awakens it, it lights it up, and I'm like, "Alright, it's there." And I think that's
Yeah.
definitely a benefit of being a very advanced soul in this lifetime. And I am so grateful to have that gift and that ability and that power, because it's an honor and it truly is. It's a gift. And I get to use it to help people. I get to use it to help people step into their power, reclaim their power. Like this whole retreat weekend I just led was all about like the topic. And this wasn't planned, but it was the topic. And the entire weekend was reclamation. What are you reclaiming this weekend?
Yeah. Mm.
Amazing.
The place that I want to kind of wrap everything up with like a little bow is around remembrance. So it's very cool that you're landing on reclamation, and I'm going to like take us that one step further to on the priestess path personally. The majority of what I'm doing is offering something that allows, that facilitates, that supports, that holds the space for like a remembrance, this like sacred illumination of, like you're saying, I have it in my blueprint, I have it in the DNA, I have it in the cells, I have it in the like I have it in the soul, I have it in the essence. And I'm curious if that's an aspect that like you're tapping into frequently as well, feeling like you are this illuminator and it lights the pathway up for others to remember, to go, oh, I have that inside me. And then we play this supportive game of like, okay, let's put language to it and let's describe it and how do you use it? And then do you go this way or this way? But that remembrance, the experience of remembering. And when we say remembrance, not just like a memory that I have remembering, but like a memory that goes beyond our human definement.
Yeah. A deep knowing, a deep, deep knowing. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I play in that space, and I think that's all of the people that have helped me remember, all of the beings and light
Mhm.
workers were
Yes.
doing the same thing for me that I am now doing for the people that I work in containers with. It is. We are all my favorite one of my favorite quotes, we are all just walking each other home. We're all just like hand in hand, like especially all of us light workers and healers in the world. We're all on the same mission. We're not in competition. We're all doing this for the collective consciousness. I want everybody to eat. Now, do I want everybody to eat at my table? Not necessarily, because not everybody's deserving of it, right? But I want especially the queer community. I want my queer babies to eat. I want them to thrive. I want them to know that there is more to life than just struggling. I want them to feel it and know that it's their birthright.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember,
This, like, inherent piece of self that, like, no decision, no mistake, no misstep, no lack of time, none of these things that we so often put of like, "Oh, this is why I'm not," or "This is why I'm behind," or "This is why someone else is more deserving or worthy," or this or that, or like, "My time has passed," like, all of those little pieces, and we're like,
all the self-imposed beliefs. That's the like logic side that I help people smash through is like I'm like, because people don't realize it. I'm like, hey, babe, why are you choosing to tell yourself that? Like, why are you choosing to believe that? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, the words that you just said are locking yourself in a prison. Our
yes.
mind is so incomprehensibly powerful. I don't, is that a word? So powerful. Why would you limit yourself with the belief of saying, oh, I can't do that. Oh, my time's passed. I'm not good with this, XYZ, whatever the hell the statement is. I'm like, let's reframe that.
Yeah. What if? What if?
What if? Show me how good it
What
can
if?
get.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Dom, phenomenal conversation every time we chat. Is there anything else that you want to offer? Is there any last piece? Is there any one thing that you want to point out? Is there anything that you're really excited about that you want to share with people?
Well,
Let's let's send them off with the one last thing.
just know that you are worthy and that you are loved and that it can be and it does get to be easy. You will have to put in a little bit of work and be intentional, but you get to have everything you've ever wanted. And if hearing that from me resonates with you, it pulls at something in your heartstrings. This found you for a reason. You're watching this, listening to this for a reason. Reach out, get in touch with me. I've got my main Instagram account, dang underscore it's Dom, which I'm sure at some point that will be shifting, but for now that's what it is. Um, Dominique at breathworkbalanced.com and then balanced underscore breathwork for my breathwork Instagram page. Those are three different avenues where you can get a hold of me and get in touch with me. Um, Even if you're not a part of the queer community and you feel called to my energy, know that I am happy to be of service to everybody in humanity. So you do not have to be a queer person. But if you are and you are a part of the community, I'm here when you're ready. And you'll know. You'll know when you're ready. And if you feel that resistance, you're ready.
I love that.
Resistance is,
Yeah.
resistance doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it or you're not ready. Resistance actually is the sign that you are ready and it's something you need to do. So,
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that of like, what is this flashlight shining on this thing expressing and telling to me? And like, what is my reaction to it and what is my response to it? And how do I once again come back into the self and see what it really is?
mhm.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for the
Oh,
conversation.
thank you.
Phenomenal. Thank you.